Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we have a bunch of really good questions this week coming off the tough loss to Texas last week at Kansas State, coming up in Manhattan this week, 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff there at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. So, a lot going on. Basketball just around the corner now. Recruiting still happening. By the time this airs, I guess it will be the day of. Joe Yeager and I are going to see Texas Tech quarterback commit Behren Morton in action out at Post. So they're actually Eastland, Behren Morton and Eastland are taking on Panhandle High School at Post. So kind of in the middle. That'll be an interesting game. And honestly, both Joe and I are really excited to see them. So look for that video content and some other, like a live thread during the game, a write-up from me, all that stuff coming up on Behren Morton. Which I think I'll be talking about Morton here in a little bit. Answering a question. We have some really good questions. Let's dive into them. Grand Blah asked, if Coach Yost wants a dual-threat quarterback prototype, a quarterback that can extend plays, then why is Texas Tech playing Bowman? Would it be advisable to play McIver or the young quarterback from Friendship? He's talking about Donovan Smith. As Tech recruits to upgrade the roster and the players on the field. My thoughts. Yeah. This is a good question. It's understandable, but I want to make clear, and I've tried to. This isn't what I think. This is what the coaching staff thinks. This is the way it is, and it makes sense to me. So I've already accepted this as the way it is and kind of moved on. And I hope that fans can do the same because I feel like this is how it's going to be. As of right now, throughout fall camp, and honestly early on in the spring, before Henry Colombi, who we didn't even mention, the transfer from Utah State, before he got here, it was billed as a competition between Alan Bowman and Maverick McIver. And then when Colombi got here in the fall camp, or in the summer for fall camp, it was all three of them. Bottom line is, what everyone is saying is that here's Bowman and here's everybody else. And as far as Donovan Smith, he's not even in the mix for the second or third string. He's just, if you talk to the coaching staff, he's just young, he needs to develop. Let's not even consider him for playing time right now. So, that's what it is. Bowman, what he brings with his skill set, though it may not be what Yost wants in terms of what he looks for in his prototypical quarterback, Bowman still has experience. He has the confidence. He is an accurate quarterback when he's on. He's the no-brainer quarterback, starting quarterback right now. Now, can Colombi come on? Can McIver come on? Absolutely. But to this point, that's been the case. Now, look, Bowman, it's been a tale of, honestly, feast or famine with him. I think he's been good at times, but he's been terrible at times in terms of taking care of the ball. So, he leads the Big 12 in passing yards and interceptions. So, if he can take care of the ball, he has receivers to distribute the ball to. One of the better running backs in the Big 12, in my opinion, is Sir Roger Thompson. And I think Alan Bowman, I actually feel better after having seen him through two games, especially the game against Texas, despite all the interceptions, than I did before the season. Because I'm not the biggest fan of Alan Bowman's skill set in terms of today's the skill set I would prefer. I prefer more of a dual threat guy, or at least someone like a Behren Morton, who is Tech's 4-star commit, who, he can run, don't get me wrong, but where he's at his best is creating more time outside the pocket, looking for big plays downfield. Now, I'm not comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. I'm saying that kind of style. That's what Pat does. Pat's the best at it in the whole world. But that's when you see Behren Morton's tape, he's excellent at throwing on the run. He really wowed people with that ability at the Elite 11, which is saying something in the finals in Nashville over the summer. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing him bringing that facet to the offense when he gets to campus, which is expected to be this upcoming spring. So the reason to just wrap it all up with a bow, the reason why, to answer your question, the reason why Bowman is the quarterback is because he's been that much better, period, than the other guys. And it's not even close. All right, next question. This is a tough one. Comes from Prosper, who says, how does a Power 5 head coach not know what down it is with less than a minute on the clock? I got to say, man, that's a really tough one. I actually, what we're talking about here is at the end of regulation, Texas had tied it up. Tech was driving. I can't remember exactly where they were, but they were between their own 40 and midfield. And It was fourth down, and the clock was ticking, and Texas Tech called timeout with their final timeout with 9 seconds to play. And I don't know how big of an impact it actually had on the game, but just the thought process, the fact that they did that the way they did, the fact that, not that they called timeout. If they called timeout, want to get one more play, okay. Or if it was third down and they had 9 seconds, you're thinking, all right, run a play, get out of bounds, stop the clock. If you can get 20, 30 yards, maybe give your field goal kicker a chance, right, to win the game. But the way they did it was they called that timeout and then they punted, which basically gave your team another chance to make a mistake. You already had a punt blocked, or they could return it, though Texas wisely, they muffed a punt, which gave Tech a touchdown earlier in the game. They wisely didn't have anybody back to return the punt. But I was just like, why did they call timeout with 9 seconds left just to punt the ball when they could just let the clock run out and go to overtime? So a lot of people were confused by that, rightfully so. And I asked Coach Wills about that in the post game, and I was wondering, what possible answer could he give for this? And his answer was basically that he had the wrong down. He looked at some yard marker or something that they had that said second down, so he thought, he said he didn't realize it was third down. It was actually fourth down. So bottom line is he didn't know what down it was, which a lot of fans have a problem with, and I understand that. I took your question to be rhetorical, not that you actually want me to answer that. So here's I'll give you my thoughts, which is what I'm thinking that you want on this. That's a huge mistake. I was surprised he admitted that to me in that post-game press conference the way he did. He even called himself dumb on that play. We all make mistakes, especially when the bullets are flying. If it was in a vacuum, just like, okay, if that play alone, he made one mistake, I wouldn't be that like, oh, okay. But the fact that they keep making questionable decisions late in games is alarming. I mean, it would be disingenuous for me not to admit that. So that's something to monitor moving forward. Bottom line is those kind of decisions, of course in the opener, the decision to not kick the field goal and try and go for it when it would have given you a 2-score lead late, that was questionable as well. It was a head scratcher. So look, the only thing we can do at this point is look ahead, just monitor it, is acknowledge this is a thing, monitor it moving forward, and then go from there. It's just the bottom line. Hopefully he have someone dedicated to telling you, okay, coach, it's late in the game when you're thinking about so many things are going on, frantic, and the clock's ticking down. It's understandable that they were on tilt when Texas made that comeback. I completely understand, but Wells needs somebody there to help him, I guess, with those little details so that he doesn't make the same mistake twice. That's my best answer on that situation, Prosper. But totally understandable question. Viewer72 has asked me this in a couple spots. He says, does Tech hold the record for scoring 50-plus points and not winning the game? I haven't done the research on that. There's been a couple links posted, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think to me what stands out is the loss to Oklahoma. I think there's two, one to Oklahoma State and one to Oklahoma, where you had leads or you were at least putting up monster points with Pat Mahomes, and you still lost. You give up 70 points, 60 points here or there. You could look at Oklahoma State, Texas, and Oklahoma in those games where you're scoring a ton of points and still losing. So that's pretty demoralizing. That game after Oklahoma, it was the Mayfield Mahomes where they set all those records, a shootout. I was demoralized. I didn't feel like, it must have been an amazing game to be at. I didn't feel like that. I felt Tech's defense was so bad. And Oklahoma's was so bad that I, as a football fan, I was just like, this is terrible. I didn't the Texas Tech, the UT Tech game this last week. Didn't feel like there were some defensive plays made. Don't get me wrong, there was some bad football in there, but some of the defense in that one game, the Oklahoma Tech game, record-setting game, was just terrible on both sides. So it left just a sour taste in my mouth all the way around. This last game, there were some big plays made. the defenses did get some stops, but there was a lot of like weird, quirky special teams. There's more special teams plays made in that game than I think I've seen in some seasons of Tech football. So, which is a big part of the game. So, I don't know if Tech holds the record for the most losses while scoring 50 points, but it'd be interesting to see who it would be if it isn't Tech. I mean, I'd be shocked if it wasn't Tech. Tech Freak asks, well, what's Wells' hot seat meter on a scale of 1 to 10? Well, if you're talking about the fans, it's like a 9. But if you're talking about the reality of the situation, it's just his beginning of his second season. He's got a 6-year guaranteed contract. So I think his hot seat is non-existent right now. Now, I think year 3, if they struggle, if they finish this year, with a losing record or poor showing, going into next year, his seat is going to be blazing hot, in my opinion. That's what I've always looked at. Is like, okay, first 2 seasons we get an idea of where they're at, but if he doesn't produce a winning season by his 3rd season, he's in trouble. And it might be some of his staff to go first, but that's where I see the hot seat, really, like a true hot seat where his job may be in danger coming in the 3rd season. Next question comes from Two Poodles, who basically, to sum up the question, is, do I think Tech might move to a 2-quarterback scheme with Bowman and Colombi to kind of get more of a running element out of the quarterback? I don't think that's going to be something where Colombi gets one series and Bowman gets the other. I think we may see some packages maybe where Colombi will run. But then again, in that scenario, I think you might see someone like a Miles Price actually run kind of like a wildcat type deal, more than maybe Colombi, just because he's more of an explosive athlete. Now maybe they want to get Colombi some seasoning, and so maybe they do give him a series here or there. But I don't know. It's all Big 12 play now. Like I said earlier in the mailbag, I think Bowman is their guy, and that's who they're rolling with. And I don't think they want to erode any confidence that he has right now by kind of, running a 2-quarterback system. But that's my opinion. Maybe things will change if Bowman keeps turning the ball over. Those coaches value the ball too in possessions. They don't want to turn the ball over. So if he continues to do so, then maybe they might give Colombi or McIver a look. But right now, last I heard, Colombi was the number 2. All right, final question comes from Texas Tech Austin, who says, what is the bigger impact on this team and the coaches for that matter? Almost winning a game no one thought they could, or, he said, pissing away a surefire win against a highly ranked, hated opponent at home? Boy, that is a great question. I think that is the question right now, is how are they going to react? How, honestly, by the time this is recorded and you're watching this, is how have they reacted? Because that's, don't get me wrong, how you show up on game time. But how you show up on game time, in large part, is a reflection of how you prepared during that week. So did this team kind of do the woe is me, we blew it, we suck again kind of thing? Or did they say, you know what, we came really close to beating Texas, a top 10 team. If we can hang with UT like that, where we should have beaten them, then we can go to Kansas State and win. We can hang with Iowa State the following week. Is that what they're saying? Like, we can hang with anybody in the Big 12. Of course, the players and coaches early in the week, that's what they were saying that they took away from it. But you don't really know. Even if I was like a player in the locker room, you don't really know until about Friday, like about now. They're traveling, the preparation's already been put in. What's the feeling? Do you believe in yourself and your teammates and your coaching staff? And I tell you what, everything I've heard, not just in the pressers, but what I've been told is I really think that this was kind of like I think it would have been better if they won. But then here's a third idea. This team hasn't had, these players, a lot of these guys, the veterans, they haven't had a lot of success in college. So obviously the win would have been the best thing. There's no denying it. Beating Texas at home, that would have been huge. But, okay, they lost. So they got the confidence booster from hanging with Texas and shoulda, woulda, coulda beating Texas. But they also still have a lot of humility for having blown that. So if they use this right, it could be perfect in terms of motivating for the game against Kansas State. You sure as heck shouldn't have a letdown since you blew the lead. A lot of humility there. But be bolstered by, man, did you see those plays? We made some big plays in all three phases of the game. So if we had just done this or if we had just done that, I mean, we could really be a good team. I think all the offseason, Big 12 championship is the chant, out of the huddle and all this stuff. Like, do they really believe it? I think they probably believe it more now than they did before the Texas game. I know I do in terms of them being able to compete with anybody. I thought they'd lose by double digits, and they almost won by double digits. So, woulda, coulda, shoulda. They should have won. But I think Tech's going to go in. I think they're going to be pretty sharp. I think they're going to play well, and I've already predicted I think they're going to win a close one against a very good Kansas State team, who I think it would be human nature if they had a little bit of a letdown after beating Oklahoma in Norman. I mean, beating Oklahoma in Norman is a much bigger deal than playing Texas Tech at home. I mean, that's just that's just the truth. So, Chris Klieman's a good coach, Kansas State. I mean, I wouldn't be that surprised if they were still sharp and ready to play, but I think in terms of the psychology of it, Tech could really use this humility plus a confidence booster. Go to Kansas State, play sharp, get out of there with a win. That's the way I see it. Maybe it's wishful thinking. We'll see, right? That's the best part of it, is that we get to find out. 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff at Kansas State. Red Raiders looking to get back on track. Great questions from everyone. Really appreciate everyone watching. And until next time.